11.
That's the culture you see. So hold on for the ride of your life. Who knows what's around the bend? And if you're feeling some hesitation, remember shyness and what it's for. Oh God, talking about Trinidad, we have the goods and the bad. Talking about Trinidad, well, half the country mad. Talking about Ethiopia, Bacchanal, that's the way we go. Shots will fire, waves will break when you hear a soul coming through.
Look how the sun now raising up, and the crowd now waking up. The atmosphere have vibes, and nothing can break it up. The girl never wind up stuff. We are the things that we never go.
The majority do not use super. From the inflation have, the majority does use super. Okay? Imposition. Does use super, and therefore it's going to be widespread, and we're seeing it going off into price increases. In terms of the thank you. Yeah, this means that here is numbers. March 2017, March 2018, and I'm told the volume of super sold was 516 million liters. The volume of premium sold was 22 million liters. So it means that drivers of super versus premium exceeds by $100 million. I'm sorry, 22 million.
Listen, the little bit I watch of Kamla Persad-Bissessa's response, I felt pity for this woman. I felt pity for this woman because she is clearly at the end of her political career. Kamla Persad-Bissessa cannot lead the charge that you need led against the criminals in and behind the PNM. Kamla Persad-Bissessa is, I don't want to say a spent force, I'm trying to be respectful, and every single member of the UNC. But the UNC is a hateful, hateful party, you know. And a lot of those fellas will set her up and cut her throat. There are members of the UNC that sold out the UNC to the PNM so that the UNC would lose so they could bust Kamla's throat. The UNC is a bunch of hateful, nasty, spiteful, disgusting people. And all they know is intrigue and greed. And so they knew, they had to know today she was out of her depth and quite possibly intoxicated. And it made a mockery of the entire process. It made a mockery of the parliament. It made a mockery of governance. And we're in a sad, sad place. Your prime minister is leading a band of thieves running wild in Trinidad and Tobago. Your opposition is in total disarray and meltdown. Your opposition leader needs medicating. She needs to be retired. You need to retire Kamla, but not just Kamla, because the problem with the UNC as configured, all the people who consider themselves replacements for Kamla not one of them electable. Not one. Not one of them is electable. Nobody trusts Vasant Bharat. Nobody. Even the people who are wrong Vasant, Stephen Kadies, Devi Buru Singh, Stacey Rupnarayan, are nowhereians, political has-beens. Stacey Rupnarayan have nowhere to go. Nobody in the country respects Stephen Kadies. Nobody. Stephen Kadies is seen as an opportunist, and he's made a mess for activist politicians forever. Nobody else is going to try to be an activist politician after Stephen Kadies and Keith Noel, 136. Keith Noel, 136, 186, I can't remember the number. That Stephen Kadies dragged that man's coffin through Port of Spain to get himself a government work so that he and his wife could get government contracts. And after, forget Keith Noel. I remember Keith Noel. Come out of government, talking Keith Noel again. Nobody trusts Vasant Bharat and that band of failures. Nobody trusts Rudal Monilal and whatever lines up with him. Because Rudal Monilal is seen as the Indian version of Keith Rowley. Total opportunist. Total opportunist, people that you can't trust. Now, there are people who are going to say that they took everything to remove the rampant corruption because the People's Partnership government was thieving everything. It made the Basdeo Pandey bandit government look like choir boys and nuns. The People's Partnership under Kamla Prasad Bisesa was a criminal government. Everything they touched and everything they did was crooked. It was designed to enrich somebody. And look at what we got in exchange. Look at what we get in exchange. We have a man like Herbert Volney walking around this country playing he is arbiter of who has political value and political integrity. He who should have been charged and jailed for misbehavior in public office, hijacking the parliament to free UNC financiers. This is what you passing between government and opposition. Criminals, crooks, bandits. This is no joke anymore, you know. This is no joke anymore. I apologize to the people who can't share the live. I don't even know what they're doing to these videos anymore. After this video, it'll get published and the YouTube channel, the YouTube video will get punished. Share it then, Diane. They're doing all kind of wickedness to try and stop us and shut us up because the Progressive Empowerment Party has become the nation's last best hope. And they don't want people to hear. This morning, I did an interview with Fazir Mohammed for 23 minutes. And that 23 minutes was like a political earthquake in the country because people who had never heard of us before saw a bright light this morning and realized that all was not lost. The PNM and the UNC must come to their political end now. It is time. It is time to vote a real government into office for the first time. Eric Williams was a crook, a racist, socialist, borderline, communist, high-functioning sociopath, but a crook. Eric Williams oversaw the first plunder of the country by the neo-colonialists and their financiers and set the pace for all the Calder Hearts and the Ishes and Steves and all the serial contractors and people who just overnight become billionaires in this country, while politicians, Indian face Kamala, black face Rowley, talking shit to their followers to keep them dumb, dependent, and stupid. But it's over. It's like God reaching down and trying to open minds in this country. It's like the country, the people of the country, not taking bullshit anymore. They're not. They're not. When Keith Rowley couldn't get 200 people mobilized out of the PNM's 70,000 members, 200 people voted. 200. It's an embarrassment. It's an indictment against the PNM, and it's a total rejection of Keith Rowley and Franklin Khan and Stuart Young and Carl Members and Faris Al-Rawi. These people are seen as disgusting, untrustworthy. They are seen as enemies of the people. That's how the people see these rogues in the government and the opposition. Trinidad and Tobago has to come to terms with the fact that there has been no vision for this country other than marginalize and break the spirit of the people and plunder. There is an elite in Trinidad and Tobago that we casually refer to as the 1%, because there are laws in this country that protects criminals. You could use the court to bully people who trying to stand up for this country. I am being victimized that way, and we're going to have to deal with that too. All kind of losses. But it's like you're walking this road, you be walking to the promised land, and we have to go through all of these valleys of the shadow of darkness and death. We have to confront and resolve all manner of hate, spite, racism, greed, avarice. I mean, the 7 deadly sins want nothing with this country. And Trinidad and Tobago, the people, I am tired of hearing people bad talk the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The people were left no choice. And I believe that. I honestly believe that the people are waking up to the fact that they have a choice now, and that they're going to build that choice into something. Unlike the analogy of the promised land, where those who should not have crossed into the promised land had to die out, in the PEP, we had to have some political deaths. People who, thankfully, we didn't take into the promised land with us, because we'd end up like the PNM and the UNC. We'd end up trying to rationalize. And you know what they say? When you rationalize, you tell yourself, rational lies. Now, I have no interest in that. Some people say that Philip is talk too harsh. But I talk this harsh for a reason. I want there to be no misunderstanding of the mission. The mission is going to end with investigation and prosecution of some people that you might have considered respectful members of society. Some people that you may have considered got to where they are properly. But we have to go and find the people's money. We must go to Siam, Tamnak Thai, Apsara, and take back the $41 million that was taken from National Insurance to give to friends of the UNC to build a discotheque around the Savannah. $41 million, and we want interest. But you're never going to get this from the Mutual Assured Destruction Society of the PNM. They know where each other bury the bodies. They know. They know how to bust mark. They know. And right now, they're panicking. Because their structure, their power structure, is collapsing under the bright light of information. The public waking up. It's hard. It's hard to defend criminality. I tell people I know. I know. When you hear me say I don't go to church anymore because of the actions of the church against and the inactions of the church against the pedophiles, I want you to understand, I was an acolyte. I was in the youth group. I was in the choir. And I was in the seminary. Philip Edward Alexander was almost in the seminary at the time of the current Archbishop of Port of Spain. Jason Gordon, Father Jason Gordon and I are friends. I was the youngest covenant member of Living Water Community. If I stand against my religion, it is not an easy stand. My parents are still pillars of the community. My mother tell me, Sunday, son, don't come for lunch Sunday because we have a church event to cook for. And every time that there is something that any church needs, my mother is there, slaving away cooking, because my parents are pillars of the church. For me to stand aside, I want to tell you, it's not easy, because I was in it. I need people, Trinidadian people, in their own condition, wake up. Just look around. Forget anybody else and what they think and what they do. You wake up. I want the people of Morvant, Bethel, Laventille, and Sealots, those good people. You see the Trinidadians who like to castigate people for their poverty? Those people could kiss my ass. Get thee behind me, Satan. Blaming people for their condition. And you all are such hypocrites. Because when somebody in your family gets sick, you're looking for everybody. I want to know the Polonais and Boyce families that relied on the entire nation to stand with you when Natalie Polonais was missing. Why have you closed your doors on the rest of Trinidad and Tobago where other girls and women are missing? Why has the Polonais family, who have benefited from the good fortune of having their missing person found, not launched with their billions of dollars a foundation to help encourage police and the public? If I was the Polonais family, if I had the kind of money the Polonais family had and had Natalie Polonais brought back to me, I would have started an Amber Alert in Trinidad. I would have put up screens all over the country. And I would have worked with the government and the police to make sure that never happened to them again. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have to stop being so selfish. We have to stop. And to the Polonais family and the Boyce family, I say again, it is not too late. It is not too late. Give back to the nation that stood with you. People put aside all the rumors. I hear all kind of shit. Who's sleeping with Jim Trainer? Who organized and set up the kidnappers as stunt? I hear all that bullshit and ignore it. Polonais and Boyce family and everybody else, when you go through something like that, there's a show on American TV called America's Most Wanted. And America's Most Wanted is one of the most powerful tools used by law enforcement to help them keep track of missing persons and to find an evidence and leads that lead to the successful prosecution of criminals. The man who started America's Most Wanted lost one of his children to crime. Mothers Against Drunk Driving in America has brought drunk driving laws to the level where Americans afraid to drink and get in a car. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD, started by a mother who lost a child to drunk driving. We cannot be so isolated, insulated, separated, set apart in this country. Stop pretending that you will live forever or that you shit 55 flavors of ice cream. every Trinbagonian have to get comfortable again, helping each other. We are not going to survive if we continue to separate and divide by race, color, creed, and class. It is why Peter George Sr. and Mario Sabga Aboud are at the bottom of my Gobar pile. I have them as human shit. After listening to Peter George Sr. and the olive oil drizzlers, I have separated myself from knowing them. If Mario Sabga Aboud sees me out in public, he can't wave at me because I won't wave back. I have separated myself from them. Because when they said the shit that they said, I still can't get over Peter George Sr.'s comment that the middle class is meant to protect the rich from the poor. It's a buffer. And he's concerned. That was his only concern, that the buffer that he relies on to protect the quality of his life. He didn't give a shit that the reason the buffer is shrinking means people losing their lives, their qualities of lives, their properties, their jobs, their businesses. He ain't realizing or he ain't taking that into account. All the stunting son of a bitch, Peter George Sr., who goes to sit in Adam's Bagels and drinks little demi-tasse cups of coffee and feels himself royalty, stunting jackass, heir to people who fled Syria. My family run from Syria. None of the Syrians in Trinidad and Tobago who plain overnight white people are overnight white people. They still Syrian people, descendants of those who fled crime, prosecution, persecution, and all other manner of hateful existences in Syria. And they come here, and like everybody else, forget. I don't know what it is wrong with us, that we forget that we escape shit. And you come here, make sure here don't become shit too. How much gated communities are we going to build before we realize it's a joke? Before we realize it's a joke, the little boy who got killed by the 2 bullets that escaped Kokorit should have brought into stark relief the millionaires living in Bayside Towers, that there are 50,000 desperately poor people across the freaking road and 2 security guards. If Rowley and Imber destroy this country and people have to eat, they will cross that road. And Bayside Towers, and I want Trinidad and Tobago because there was a woman who said, when I use Bayside Towers as a reference, she said Bayside should have sued me for saying Bayside, like just to say Bayside in the same sentence with Kokorit should be something that you could sue for. We are so stupid, we're so inside out and upside down and twisted in this country. We divide ourselves by ego, by posture, by stunt. And if we don't fix that, nobody can come and fix it for us, you know. Nobody can come and fix it for us. I remember this country during the 1990 attempted coup when Abu Bakr did his shit. And Pandey and Manning were mysteriously absent from the parliament. I remember by the 3rd day into the attempted coup, nobody was prepared. And things like food and toilet paper was scarce. And I remember a friend of mine that was living in Goodwood Park, they had nothing by the 3rd day. And I had managed to get some money out of our ATM before they destroyed the ATM. And I was able to go buy a little mini mart in Bonds Road when the curfew lifted and bought food, toilet paper and corned beef and that sort of thing. And I was able to go and give them. And for all the Goodwood Park, it reminds me of the lady today, the fashion designer who just died, who said she has all of this fancy clothes, the most expensive cars, the biggest house, and she's dying. She's dying. She's dying. Spice Mirage, let me don't talk about if they have a buyer for Petro-Trinidad. Let me stick a pin in the bullshit tonight. Let me focus on us, we the people. Because you see all this shit and the reactive nonsense with Petro-Trinidad and Caribbean and all this nonsense and PNM and UNC and who do all the bacchanal noise is what's keeping us from getting the job done. Trinidad and Tobago was supposed to stand up and fire Keith Rowley over the superfast glacier. That was a clear evidence that as Prime Minister, he had no idea what he was doing. None whatsoever. And we were supposed to fire him then. Everything that happened since, the secret signing and the deal that he and Stuart Young went and do, they jail them for the prosecute and jail them. It's a democracy. This is a democracy with an elected dictator. You and your Chinese ride or die. What the hell is wrong with you, Keith Rowley? Going and sign secret deal with Sandals, signing secret deal with Maduro, reading secret McKinsey reports, and not sharing it to the public. What is he trying to do? What are you trying to do, Keith Rowley? What? What do you think? What are you thinking? You little 1% Kabbalist ringing in your ear, telling you shit that you'll get away with this? A real government, I'm not talking about a UNC government that you could threaten with who have mall in Switzerland and who make bounce check contractor, father-in-law, millionaires. A real government will prosecute all of you, investigate all of you. Morva, Beetham, Lavantel and Silots have to get from the PEP a social intervention that like a rising tide lifts all boats. Comes in there and identify everybody's condition. How do we right size you? We have to go into Cocorite, deal with these people. The PNM and the UNC by extension have abandoned these people to limited intellectual. We've literally dumbed them down. You bounce up a real gangbanger, Trinidad, Gatorian. They barely operating socialized, you know. You don't even understanding what the frick they're saying, much less what they're thinking, you know. We've broken this country by deliberate design. And the idea was, keep them hustling, keep them hungry, keep them off balance, keep them dependent, and if they organize, water cannon for their mothers. That's PNM and UNC. Because the people who talking about the PNM and the water cannon, remember, it was ordered under the UNC. So don't think for a minute that they have any difference between those two racist criminal cults. There isn't. Now I could wade in to Kamala right now and destroy her for what she did today in the parliament. I am going to show mercy, but I think it is time that Kamala Persad-Bissessar stepped down. She made an ass of herself. Today, you are in a country where what passes for leadership, business, legal, political, have all been turned on its head. Ethics have been thrown aside. Conspiracies created to rob and steal. To rob and steal. There must be an accounting, no pun intended, from Ernst & Young and PricewaterhouseCoopers. There must be an accounting. Trinidadians must understand what happened to their country. While Singapore and Dubai went on to first world nation status, developed water in their taps. A woman wrote on my wall today, I almost made it a post on Facebook, and I said, you know what? I ain't having this conversation. A woman took our post where I said that we get 10 times the water that we need. 10 times. We get 10 times the water than we need. Bathe your dog, wash your car. You know, they have some Trinidadians like to wake up on a Sunday morning and hose down the whole yard. And you know what that is about? My father is one of those. He like to hose down. So you know, Sunday morning, when you're hearing that broom and water splashing, it's because he hosing down the driveway. And there are a lot of Trinidadians that is their way of doing things. And we get more water falling from the sky than we could drink, bathe, run jockey in, run down, hose down driveway, wash car, bathe dog. Waste, we get 10 times that water falling from the sky. And a woman said to me, when I said that we could get 24/7 water. And she said to me, 24/7 is too much. 3 days good. We have tanks and pumps. Not understanding that the shackles could come off. Not understanding that the whipping could stop. Not understanding that it is not a negotiation, that if you fix it properly. This is an island in the Caribbean, surrounded by water, impregnated by water, and 10 times the amount of water we could possibly consume falls on us from the sky 6 months out of a year. It is not negotiation. We're not rationing. If you fix it, you will have water 24/7. But she's so broken. She's broken in her mind. It's like when Fitzgerald Hines went to England, he told Hamer, he sounded like one of those, I mean, he comes across like a monkey in a suit, but he sounded like one. When he told Hamer, he said, Hamer, when I was in London, every time I turned on the tap, I was amazed to see water come out every time. And when he said that, he was the Minister of Public Utilities with responsibility for WASA, water distribution. That's who he was at that time. Incapable of understanding that all of those box drains and concrete drains that the PNM and the UNC have built, that takes the bounty of fresh water that falls magically from the sky and washes it into the sea, that we could use them as channels to direct all of that water into retention ponds all along the river run. All along the river run, you could actually make retention ponds, prefab, come in the river, dig them out, drop them in, cast them in and move. And you could make, you know, everybody have a 1,000-gallon tank in your yard. So you know the size of a 1,000-gallon tank. So think of something 10 times that size, 10,000 gallons going down the road. And you put 110,000 gallons, that's 1,000,000 gallons of water. 1,000,000 gallons of water has just been saved. You don't need to create a bypass. You don't need to create a storm drain. The Diego Martin River cannot overflow because as it's filling up, it's filling these retention ponds. That's taking 1,000,000 gallons of water out of the flow that is going to be ready to be cleaned and distributed fresh from the sky. But we've never had a government that wanted to do that, and there's a reason, and the reason is theft. If you fix the problem, you can't continue to steal. This is a world where medical science solved erectile dysfunction but can't cure cancer. And I want to believe that they have something there for us to understand what's going on. Continuous maintenance, continuous development is continuous money. WASA has received more money than it would take to run pipe 2.5 times around the entire earth. They have 4 companies in Trinidad that imports pipe into Trinidad and Tobago. Imports pipe. 2 of them are UNC financiers and 2 of them are PNM financiers, and all 4 of them work together. And Ganga Singh knows, that criminal, he knows that WASA and every version of government this country has ever had never had the intention to give the people water because water tank and water pump is big racket in this country, but that is joke now to water truck. Water truck is mafia. We have a whole mafia business running now. Water truck. It is the same water that the people of the nation has paid for. They're paying for it again. They paid for it, and now they're paying for it again. And it is not the only thing we do that with. We pay the doctors in the hospital, and then we pay them again when we go to their private practice. We pay the teachers in the school, and then we pay them again when we take our children for private lessons. It is a country broken by deliberate design, created to offer corruption as a means of doing business. We cannot be assured of our ranking on the corruption index through Transparency International because, as funny as this is going to sound, we can't rely on the information. It's corrupted. The ministry in this country that is responsible for making sure nobody thief is the Ministry of National Security. And they've stolen $1 billion that we know of that they can't account for. Ministry of National Security cannot find $1 billion. Now, Keith Rowley and Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Patrick Manning and Bastio Pandey, their job is to lie to you, look Indian enough, look black enough, and go and play golf. Kamala used to drink, and Gary says she used to spend 4-day weekends. The first 2 years of her government, she used to fly all over the world, go dancing with Julia Roberts. You remember? Driving around on the back of a truck, waving at people. Kamala's job was to hand out gifts at Christmas time. They're not real leaders. They don't have to actually know what they're doing. Kamala and Keith, unscripted, sound like two buffoons, and neither would debate me. And I tell you that with an understanding that what we bring to the table, they don't. We bring real plans and policies that will solve every problem this country has. Everyone. Traffic, flooding, no water, failed schools, failed public health, high cost of living, inability to own a home, crime, bank charges, no bank interest, no US, all that solved. All of it solved. Drug trade solved. Human trafficking solved. Illegal guns solved. We will solve it all. And it's not 24-hour work. It's actually just normal management principles that you put in place. But neither the PNM nor the UNC has any interest in that. The PNM and the UNC are set up to do one thing only, to facilitate the theft of public funds. Colm Imbert is leading this nation to a dry desert where we max out how much credit we have access to, and they will steal that and then leave the nation high and dry for the white horses, the 1%. And now the Chinese, who are willfully paying you. We will spend 100 million in your country and we'll give you 100 million too. China knows what it is doing. It is buying small men with grand egos. But China doesn't make decisions today for today. Nouveau riche black and Indian people and Syrians too. Because I hear them laugh and joke about how the Indians just paint the tips of their things gold. But Syrians just live like that too. All the way in Trinidad and Tobago have that same bossa style friggin' gene. Right? But we think if it's on the plate, eat it now, let the devil take tomorrow. China is the only nation in the world that has a recipe for something called a 1,000-year egg. They actually have eggs being preserved for 1,000 years that they will never eat. 10 generations will own and pass on 1,000-year eggs that they will never touch. China doesn't make decisions now for now. China knows that all it needs to do is exert economic might in struggling countries. And if your country is not struggling, support governments like the PNM and the UNC that will make it struggle. it has to be a contemptible offense that Colm Imbert was allowed to destroy this country. That son of a bitch, I understand he sang at the end of the budget, he did it his way. Colm Imbert. There are no words for how much contempt I have for you and the suffering you have put so many people through needlessly. You dirty, dirty little man. And that is why you're aging so badly. They have a Syrian financier in the UNC. He aging so bad. When you look at him, you know that had to be a punishment from God, boy. That's not normal. That's not normal. It's like Hafiz Karamat. Hafiz Karamat was walking around smelling dead, you know. That is the man who thieved the desalination plant. He was walking around smelling dead. Ish and Steve better brace. It ain't done for them. Neither call a heart. It ain't done. Done. It's not done. But Colm Imbert is a nasty, nasty little man. And it's something, it says something about what was done to us, that we can have these rotten personalities anywhere around our country. When you look at what makes, I mean, they have some fellas you don't know, Dave Tanko in the UNC. These fellas so slick, they're like Teflon. And their job, I mean, they're really there for themselves, you know. They're really there for themselves. You used to watch and see what passed for government in the parliament, Anand Ramlogan and Glenn Ramadas Singh. These fellas, Suraj Rambachan. Slimy. Slimy, slimy people. Look at what's going on now. Stuart Young. Stuart Young, slimy. Called nasty. Look at Darrell Smith. The country vomit him out. We want to hear about him. But we need to. Because we need to know if they took public funds to settle his sexual harassment lawsuit. If they did, that is an offense. That is misbehavior in public office. If Keith Rowley erroneously took $3 million that he wasn't authorized to take to give Maxi Coffee, who wasn't entitled to receive $3 million for overseas health, Keith Rowley is guilty of misbehavior in public office, and there needs to be an organization of state that prosecutes that. That prosecutes that. We are not standing up here just looking for office, you know. This ain't no kumbaya party, you know. We're coming to fix it. We're coming to undo and redo it. The courts, the education system, the police service. We're coming to fix it and stand it up strong and stand it up upright to get Trinidad to first world nation status, developed nation status, paradise on earth convincingly. But we also want to bring the criminals to justice. We want to go and take it back from their inheritors. This is not no fly-by-night, three-letter pelter name. This party has had over 60 weekly meetings with the public of Trinidad and Tobago. That's not counting rallies. That's not counting public meetings. That is just our every Saturday we meet the public. No other political party has ever done that. And they can't catch that record now. They can't. We all put aside our entire Saturday, one of our 2 weekend days, and give it to the redevelopment of Trinidad and Tobago. And we've already spoken. Tomorrow at noon, we expect a bumper crowd. And if you're coming, and you can bring a cake with you or some cheese sandwiches or whatever to share, because it's always a sharing. And everybody's always sharing. I mean, we have the water and the drinks and things, but if you want to bring something when you're coming, all are invited. Bring the family. This conversation we have here on a live video is joke to the conversation we have on a Saturday at noon at 19 Stanmore Avenue, because you meet the whole team. And when you realize that it's not just me, that I have an army, that there is an orange family, that the Progressive Empowerment Party has length, breadth, and depth, that no other political party could boast. Real good, decent, civic-minded, patriotic, brilliant people that have built out of whole cloth a political movement second to none, a real revolution of hearts and minds. Tomorrow at noon, 19 Stanmore Avenue, come and meet your family. Come and get involved. Come and make yourself available to serve. Our whole mission is a better Trinidad and Tobago. From the moment the Progressive Empowerment Party is elected to office, we start dealing with issues like an animal bill of rights and an environmental bill of rights that undoes the degradation and the damage done by 56 years of greed and mismanagement, PNM and UNC. An animal bill of rights that writes into law and protects all animals, domestic, farm and wild, from abuse or neglect, and puts responsibility for the well-being of the animal on the caretaker. People who consider themselves the owner. You're responsible for the well-being of that animal. They would come into force a chain law that you cannot chain up an animal and leave it chained. There would be dimensions. Town and country would have to approve kennels. You can't just have a dog and lock it in a place whole day, whole night. You can't treat animals like that because they can't communicate their discomfort to you. We want to make sure that if you're going to cut down a tree on your property, you have to apply for permission and justify cutting down that tree. We want a 50-50 green space ratio. We want to make sure that all developers going forward put down 50% of the property, even if it had to be a roof, green space. It's time that you look at this nation with fresh eyes and saw what it really was meant to be. I tell people, they don't get that there is no tourist destination in the world. There is no tropical island destination in the world that compares to Tobago. None. None. And it's been spoiled a little bit, but it could fix. It's blessed. Tobago has been fought over more than any other island in the Caribbean. There was a time real estate in Tobago was the most expensive in the world. That little island that we take for granted, that Tobago, we need to fix it back. That THA needs to go. The Tobagonian people need real representation, honest government, hope and opportunity, and get the hell out of their way. Get out of their way. Constituency boards of supervisors that make sure that the roads are paved, the pavements are maintained, the drains are cleaned, that the lights are on, the schools work, the place is safe. Get out of their way. Trinidad and Tobago could be, in quick time, one of the most beautiful places in the world. I used to say, a long time ago when I thought about getting into politics, I said that I will know. You know what pissed me off? It was the recession. And I used to watch my people when the Canadian Embassy was down on South Key, where the Ministry of Legal Affairs is now in what used to be called the Geddes Grant Building. And I used to watch my people line up from midnight, the night before, in rain or whatever, and line up. I watch mummies and daddies and grannies and little children covered down and sleeping like vagrants in a line, wrap around that building, line up, trying to beg to get out of Trinidad and Tobago. A failing government, the PNM had destroyed it. And I said to Trinidad, I said, if I get into government, I know I would have been successful when we could cut out all of the wrought iron and throw it in the sea, all the burglar proofing, throw it in the sea. I want to hear security guard companies closing down one after the other. Burglar alarm going out of business. People could leave the door open and the key in the door. Trinidadians respecting one another, and law enforcement would be a very serious, serious thing. We must make sure that the average person is free and safe, so that nobody puts God out of their thoughts to trespass on somebody else. That's the country we want. That's the country we want for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I used to see, when we could take the wrought iron off and throw it in the sea, when I could see Canadians line up in the snow trying to get a visa to come to Trinidad, I win. We win. And when we win, you win. A real nation where every creed and race finds an equal, comfortable, safe space, where home ownership is a reality for everybody, that anybody who wants a job could get one, that the government would have as its responsibility full employment for the nation, and not bullshit baton twirling, sandwich making, KFC box stuffing jobs. Real careers, opportunities to develop, to further your education in the field that you're in and go forward. Trinidad and Tobago could be a world leader in many, many things. I hope, and I really do hope, that the people have the ability to put aside all of the blinders that make them see the past, that make them see the bullshit of the PNM and UNC, that they could put it aside and see that vision for the future, where every school is a prestige school, where all the health centers treat all of the patients with dignity and respect, where our elders could go on to their final sunset with grace, where our children could play in safety, where a nation could express itself, all cultures, all religions, all races existing side by side in harmony, together, one people under one flag. That is the Progressive Empowerment Party's vision for Trinidad and Tobago. And it is my hope and it is my prayer that we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, could embrace that vision and work for it together. Tomorrow, we take a next step forward towards that vision at our meeting, 19 Stanmore Avenue at noon, and all are invited. Until I see you there, stay safe, Trinidad.